Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session. This will be our last workshop session, and today we'll continue from where we left off yesterday in our discussion on group discussions. Right. Am I audible to you? And you can see the slides on the screen? Okay. Thank you for confirming. Right. Some of you might have been here yesterday, some of you might not have been here yesterday. Either way, it is all right. Yesterday's session was recorded. Today's session is also going to be recorded. And after the workshop sessions have ended, they will be uploaded to YouTube and you will have the links available in your course calendar. Right. Even though you were not here yesterday, you can follow today's session. That is not going to be an issue. This is just to reassure anybody who wasn't here yesterday. Yesterday, we saw what a GD comprises of, what are the different kinds of topics that you might get in a group discussion, what are the different roles that one has to play in a group discussion, etc. So, yesterday, we looked at how one would lead a group discussion. We also looked at how people can participate in a group discussion. This is where we had ended yesterday, and today we'll start off exactly from there. In order to participate in a GD, we are supposed to make a note of the central point of the topic that has been allotted to us for the GD. So, how do we make a note of the central point? It's very easy for me to say that you need to make a note of the central point, but how do you actually do it? This here is another kind of a topic that you can get for a group discussion. Yesterday we had looked at general topics, debatable topics, abstract topics. In addition to these three, you can also get cases or case-based topics called caselets. Okay? So you will have a scenario spelled out for you exactly as you see on the screen, and on the basis of the scenario that is available to you, you will have to make your arguments, frame your arguments, deliver your perspective, etc. So if you look at the screen, you can see a case. A case is a scenario, a particular event or context in which you are required to operate. You are the senior manager of a software firm. Last year, your company had initiated a fast track plan, a plan to speed up the company's development efforts and rapidly increase market lines by introducing one product into the market per month. While your R&D lab has been able to meet this monthly goal over the past 11 months, the quality of the products has suffered unmistakably. You are also unable to train employees fast enough to work efficiently, and almost all departments are overwhelmed. Moreover, since the sales and technical specialists haven't had time to develop the expertise needed to help buyers before the sale or support them after the sale, too many customers either buy the wrong product or buy the right product but then can't get knowledgeable help when they need it. Discuss this situation with your team members and plan the next course of action. So, this is very much in relation to a particular business. You are trying to put new products into the market per month. Your R&D section has been able to deal with this challenge, but the quality of the products has been going down. Another problem that you face here is that you're not able to train your employees fast enough so that they can give the necessary expertise that the buyers require either at the time of buying or after they've bought the product. So you're facing some challenges here for which you need to arrive at a solution. Okay? That is what the situation is. On the basis of this topic, how do you identify what are the core concerns of this topic? This here, whatever you see underlined, are the core concerns of this topic. So, if you were participating in this group discussion, then you would immediately latch on to these phrases in the topic while it is being introduced by the panel or while the leader is talking about it, right? What are the issues? Quality is suffering, unable to train employees. Sales and technical specialists haven't had the time enough for training. Too many customers buy wrong product or can't get necessary customer service after they've bought the product. Okay? These are your issues. These are the problems for which you are seeking to find a solution. So, as soon as the topic is read out to you, you should be able to grasp what the central concerns of the topic are. Now, once you have the central concern underlined, you can structure your arguments or your inputs or your suggestions around one or two of these core concerns. Okay, it doesn't have to be the case that everybody has to address this particular concern, everybody has to address this particular concern. No, you can choose which among these concerns are you going to structure your inputs around, right? After choosing that, you can come up with one or two points which you can add to the discussion. Is that clear? Okay. These are some handy phrases that you can use when you are participating in a group discussion. Now, this is something that we discussed yesterday. Students are almost always very willing to participate in a group discussion. But when it comes to actually expressing their thoughts in a formal or courteous manner, they have a lot of difficulties. In order to overcome these difficulties in terms of speaking or expressing yourself, you can use these phrases. That is why these are helpful tips in terms of GD participation. When you want to make a point, I would like to point out, or I would like to note here, another point or one point that I would like to make is I want to also invite your attention to the fact all of these are ways in which you can make a point, right? If you are paying attention here, you'll notice that there is a certain kind of phrasing here. It's not casual speech, it is formal speech. It is very polite in that sense. So, when you use speech of this sort, it is very easy to show the rest of the group that you are indeed respectful towards them. In a lot of situations, if we directly translate from our native languages to English, the structure of the sentence will not seem adequately respectful or polite in English. Because the way in which we show respect in our native languages will be very different from the way in which we show respect in English. So we have to understand that there is a difference here. So when we are trying to show respect in English, when we are trying to be polite or courteous in English, you should use a certain kind of phrasing. When you want to disagree with somebody, this we specifically discussed yesterday, how to respectfully disagree with somebody. I beg to differ. Okay? Question, suggestion, what is it? My voice is a bit low. Oh, am I not audible to you?
No, ma'am.
I have not been audible to you all this while.
Ma'am, you are audible to me.
Yes, ma'am, you are properly audible.
Oh, what is going on then? Okay, so Shivam has some trouble understanding me, and then Anu
No,
has
ma'am.
trouble.
I want to say, ma'am, your voice is clear.
Oh, you wanted to say my voice is clear. So, Anu, you have some trouble understanding me. It might be a connection issue. I will speak further, and then if you have further trouble understanding me, try reconnecting. Now, I'm guessing it's not a problem of connection on my end since I am audible to others. Okay? Try for a little bit longer. Right. When you want to respectfully disagree with somebody, you can say, I beg to differ. You're not pointing out your disagreement in a callous manner. You're not trying to say in a very rude way, I don't agree with you. No, 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 I don't agree with you. Don't do that. I beg to differ. That is, respectfully, I would like to tell you that I do not agree with you on this particular point. And then you should follow that up with a clarification of what point is it that you disagree with them on. I'm sorry. You start with an apology. But I must disagree with you on this because you have a reason as to why you are disagreeing with them here. When you want to agree with somebody, you want to show that you are in agreement with them, but you also don't want to come across as if you are, you know, trying to please them too much. You are trying to take their side and oppose somebody else. So you have to deliver your agreement as well in a muted manner, in a polite manner. So you would say, I second your opinion, and I would also like to add that because you don't just want to be that person who agrees with somebody and leaves it at that. You also want to make your own contributions to the discussion. I second your opinion or I agree with you, and I would also like to add something else. I'm glad you mentioned that. Why? Because that allows me to go on to another point, which I would like to add to this discussion. Right. So, the recording thing, I've already addressed this once. I will address this once again towards the end of the session. Okay, Deepak?
Okay, ma'am.
Right. Having a reservation about something shows that, I mean, you're not very sure about it, right? You have a few doubts. You want to agree with somebody, but there are a few points on which you're not too sure whether you want to agree with them or not. That is what it means by when you want to agree with somebody, but with reservations. I see where you're coming from, and I agree, but I have something else. I have another perspective here, which might be conflicting with the one that you've presented. That may be valid, but only in certain circumstances. There are certain other circumstances in which that might not be valid. So you're also trying to point out a flaw or an insufficiency in their argument, in the point that they made, right? A reservation is a small doubt. You don't agree with them entirely, but you do agree with the general premise of what they are saying. Let's say you want to not interrupt anybody in a group discussion because everybody gets very limited time, right? But for whatever reason, you are in a situation where you must interrupt somebody. You can interrupt them very politely by asking, can I add something here? I would like to add on to this with, etc. Okay? So you're not entirely cutting them off. You're not raising this interruption mid sentence. You wait for them to finish their sentence and then you dive in, right? You do not cut anybody off mid sentence. That is very rude, actually. Especially in polite or formal interactions, you're expected to not cut off anybody mid sentence. In addition to the kinds of GD topics that we discussed yesterday, there is another kind known as a case study based topic or a caselet, a case based
Excuse
topic.
me, ma'am.
Yes,
Could you please show me the previous slide? I wanted to copy some of the notes.
oh yes, yeah, right. We've already familiarized ourselves with what
Thank
the
you, ma'am.
case study. Done? Okay. What a case based topic is. Now we're going to look at a few examples of what case based topics can look like. Right. Manager of the Indian vertical of a world famous USA based content streaming platform. It has been years since the firm has launched its operations in India. However, there are still not enough adapters in the local market. Upon consultation with your research team, you have concluded that there are a couple of issues here. The content provided on the streaming service is not local enough to attract Indian consumers, and the cost of the streaming service per month is too high and is not affordable for the average Indian consumer. What should the next course of action for the company be? How would you discuss this with your team members? Like we saw in the last case, we have a specific scenario here, a couple of problems that a company is facing. You're supposed to find a solution for this by discussing with your team members. Now, as usual, we need to find the core concerns of this case. When you look at the core concerns, we see that there are two major problems here: lack of local content and affordability. Content is not very relatable to the people here. It's not also very affordable to the people here. That is why there are. Then you give your suggestions. To improve affordability, what can you do? The company can explore a mobile only plan for a much cheaper price, given that most Indians get their entertainment from mobile devices. To improve local content, the streaming device can collaborate with budding content creators. Two other suggestions: one suggestion in terms of affordability, one suggestion in terms of improving local content. Can you try doing this? Take 2 minutes. If you want to see the question once again, this is the question. If you want to see the other two suggestions once again, just let me know after you've taken your time reading the question. I just want two suggestions, okay? One suggestion in terms of how it can be more affordable, one suggestion in terms of how there can be more local content. Everybody understood the question, no? Right. Who has raised a hand? I'm really sorry. I lost my network connection in between. I'm sorry about that. I am assuming you can hear me right now. Sneha, please go on.
Ma'am, I just wanted to answer the second point, that is, you know, um, that
Local
local
content.
content. Yeah. So
Huh.
uh, a solution of that can be like some US based content can also be, sorry, some US based content is also watched, are also watched by locals, and we can use an algorithm to promote some that type of contents
Hmm.
beside. Uh,
Spoken like a true data scientist. Well done. Okay, next point. Go on. That's it?
About affordability, I can't think about something.
That's
Sorry.
okay, that's okay. Yeah, thank you, Sneha. Right, Aishman, you had a point.
Yes, ma'am. For the betterment of the content provided by the streaming service, we can collaborate with the local.
Okay.
Uh,
Aishman, can you just give me 1 second? I'm not sure if it is my connection or your connection that is malfunctioning, but I cannot hear you very clearly. Can you try saying that once again?
Ma'am, for the betterment of the content provided by the streaming services, we
Huh.
can collaborate with the local content providers.
What do you mean by local content providers? Do you mean local content creators?
Yes, ma'am. Local content creators.
That's the same thing that we have on the slide, right? Can you give me one either specific example or one specific suggestion or something else entirely? That is the same thing that we saw on the slides.
Ma'am, for the first one, we can give a content which can be like related to local peoples,
Content related to
which
local people. Yes, understood. Okay. So we can collaborate with local content creators. That is it? I'm just floating out ideas here, okay? Maybe you could, and we can have local audio and subtitles for content. Very good. Yeah, right. That is very true. Somebody else had raised their hand. Ashman, you still have something to say? Sneha. Yeah, Sneha, go on.
Yeah, ma'am, about affordability, I just thought that if we are promoting US based content, then we can also promote the whole streaming platform as a premium platform. So we don't think about that affordability. It matlab, then it can be a like rich people's content and they can afford it anyway.
Some content can be made premium available. Yes, that is true. Let's not call it rich people's content. That might be offensive to somebody. So let's not call it that. Right. Now, Sai Ishwar has also given two suggestions in the chat box. Aishman, I see your hand. Just 1 second. We'll read what Sai Ishwar has to say. I think the affordability can be done with taking few local servers for streaming data, very good. And local content can be taking a contract with some production house, some local production house, very good. And we can have local audio and subtitles for content. Yes, we can. And when we keep saying US based content, that need not necessarily be the case. See, for example, there's a huge market for C dramas and K dramas. That's not exactly local content, but we see exactly what Sai Ishwar is suggesting in the chat box being done on content streaming platforms. Subtitles and audio in our local languages, content that is not exactly local, but all of these can improve reception, right? Having a popular ambassador, yes. Aishman, you had something else to say.
Ma'am, Sai stated the same thing that I wanted for the affordability.
You also wanted to say that you want to collaborate with a local production house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, understood. That's a very good point. Okay, right. Let's move on then. I think you've got the gist of it. Are you also able to understand that can also provide free trials during festive period or peak demand? Yes, that is also a very good suggestion. Now, do you understand how if we were actually sitting together as a group, then all of you would be raising your points, giving your inputs, right? And together we'll be able to try to arrive at a solution as to what can be done in order to increase the rate of adoption, right? Let's go on. What are the things that you should not do if you are participating in a group discussion? Do not just repeat something that has already been said. to only repeating something that another person has already said. You can repeat that point and then add to it. That is permitted. Okay? If you keep just repeating what someone else has already said, it kind of looks like you do not have anything original to add. You do not have anything creative to bring to the table. That doesn't reflect very well on your character. Right? So you don't just repeat what somebody has already said. You can repeat, but then you also have to add to it. Do not look indifferent or uninterested. Sometimes people, probably because they are stressed, they try to not show that they are stressed by appearing indifferent, by seeming as if just here, I don't actually care about what is happening here. Do not adopt that attitude. Appear keen. That is very important in a GD. If you're not speaking or if you're finished speaking, then you need to listen actively to what others are saying. Okay? If you are speaking, do not speak to a wall. Maintain eye contact with the group. Okay? Have an idea of how your points are being received by others in the group. We've already discussed this. Sometimes you might have a lot to say. Just because you have a lot to say, do not dominate the group. This is a discussion, it's not a debate. Dominating the group will not win you any additional points. Dominating the group actually is something that goes against the idea of teamwork. A team effort has to be something that you do together, something where different perspectives are taken into account. So if you are only dominating the group by your own points, then that is actually a negative rather than a positive. Never castist comments on anybody in any capacity. Okay? This is a very important point that I want you to keep in mind. Sometimes we get offended. Something somebody else said might have offended us. And when we are offended, we choose to offend them back. Do not do that. Okay? The fact that you are capable of handling an immature comment from someone else without being pugilistic, extremely antagonistic with them, without offending them again, shows that you are mature, shows that you are able to handle a conflicting situation in a very allowing multiple devices for one subscription. Offended? Yes, Saishwa, that's what I said, offended. It's better not to offend people by making sexist, casteist, or personal remarks. Sometimes when people disagree with us, we might be prompted to react negatively to them. Like we discussed in our last workshop session, it's very important to remember that you are not reacting to people, you're only responding to people. So be capable of handling the situation in a mature manner. Be capable of not stooping to anybody. I suddenly got confused as to why Saishwa did not understand. Was there anything that was not clear? I'm assuming that it was clear. Am I audible to you now? No connection issues?
Yes, ma'am, you're clear.
Okay. Now let's look at another caselet. Let's look at another caselet here. And here I want you all to participate, okay? I want you to treat this as a group discussion. offer your own points after we go through the case in detail. Let's imagine that I am the panel of judges here. You're all the group discussion, you're all the participants, or whoever wants to lead here can lead in the group discussion. You are the familial inheritors to the rare artistry of Rogan textile painting. Your father, who runs the art business, does so at a very small scale level. Income received from only in peak season time, the October-November festival season. You, however, believe that a strong social media presence coupled with international order shipping can greatly boost sales. Your father is skeptical about this. Skeptical is doubtful, not too sure about something. Firstly, because he believes a lot could go wrong and money could be lost when shipping internationally. And secondly, because he does not understand the concept of social media. How would you discuss this with your three brothers so that you can convince your father to give your ideas a shot? This is your question. This is your case. Now, quickly, everybody go through the case once again and identify what are the chief concerns here. There is some problem which needs a solution. What is the problem? What can be your possible solutions? Quickly identify the problems. Shall we begin? Somebody here who wants to lead the discussion? Nobody wants to lead the discussion. Do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to that slide? No worries. Anybody who's free and willing can read. If you want me to go back to yesterday's slide, just let me know. Are you able to identify the problem areas here? What are the chief concerns of this case? Are you able to identify that? You are able to
Yes, ma'am.
identify that? Ananya, can you tell me what those problem areas are? Don't leave the meeting just because I'm asking you questions. Don't worry about this. You don't have to speak if you don't feel like talking. Ananya, go on.
That their father thinks that money could be lost when shipping internationally.
Okay. What do you want to do here?
Uh, we have to make a plan so that father can understand that
Can you repeat that once
uh,
again?
we have to make a plan with our three brothers so that we can convince our father uh,
Mhm.
uh, to uh, to sell their product in
Hmm.
social media too, so that
Ah,
we can ship internationally too. But he
yes.
thinks that there is a problem.
So you need to convince your father. That is what you need to do. Very good. That is very good. Now, Aishman, would you like to lead or is it something else? Aishman? Aishman, can you hear me? I see that you've raised your hand. Right. Anybody has any suggestions? Let's forget about leading then. Don't worry about that. Maybe you don't feel ready for it. No, Aishman, I cannot hear you. I would show him a reliable method in which the shipping is being taken place. That's very good. You can demonstrate to them rather than explain to your father. You can demonstrate to him that shipping is happening in a very reliable way so that your money cannot be lost. There need not be any cause for concern there. Yes, you can convince him in that manner. Anything else?
And then we can give him the example of other
You can give him the
who are
example of other industries that ship internationally. You mean other businesses who
yes,
operate
ma'am.
in a similar manner? Yes, you can do that. Very good. Explain what social media is, and then show what has happened in the past. Okay. I will talk to some trustworthy contractor for shipping internationally. Very good. Okay, very good. In terms of social media, Sidhu Krishna, do you have something else to add to that? Social media is something that can be done without a great deal of investment, right? So that's always a positive when you're talking about talking to your parents. You don't have to put in a lot of money for this. Let's just try this. No, you can you can do that. There's a very good chance that they will agree. Create a website, e-commerce, and promote the site on social media. Yes, that can be a further step. Very good, Sudhir Kumar. Is that Sudhir or is it Sudhir?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
So, could you please check whether my point is correct? So, it is being written in the first point that only during the festival season, the income is relied by the shop. So, apart from the festive seasons, we can also give some offers like let's reduce the rate during for to be somewhat economical, and the business will somewhat elevate from what it was normally earlier. When we reduce the rate of all the whatever is sold in the thing, it would be useful for the shopkeeper, right?
I understand your point, but let's look at what kind of a product we are dealing with here, because that's an important point, right? You are the familial inheritor to the rare artistry of Rogan textile painting. That is, you are painting these textiles by hand, right? So the whole idea here is that this is not uh, a daily essential kind of a good. This is actually a luxury, right? So this is a different kind of consumption entirely. You cannot undervalue the kind of work that you're putting in, the value of the art that you're putting in into the product, because that can actually affect your industry more than it can benefit your industry. This is an inheritance. Remember, it is an artistry work.
But now in case it is some other products like any kind of daily use product, so reducing the rate
Yes,
will be helpful.
yes, that is very true. In the case of a daily use product, in the case of a necessity good, that is, that would be very helpful. I'm not sure if that can be done in a similar manner here. But once you have a website in place, then you can use offer prices without devaluing the product itself, right? Because there you can actually, mark up your price and then provide an offer on the marked up price such that it will not affect the quality or the rate at which your art is valuated. That can be done. So, in that sense, it's a very good suggestion. Good, Mahalakshmi. Okay, let me just. We can collaborate with some content creators on social media platforms and advertise our product through them. Yes, you can. Very good. As a further step, we can organize exhibitions with the artwork and influence through YouTube. Yes, all of these can be done. So, you already have a plan in place here. In order to convince your parents, obviously plans won't work. You'll actually have to do something. So you start a social media account, you contact a few influencers, you start maybe a YouTube account, you set up a website that is not too costly, right? You put in the necessary work that is required in order to handle an exhibition or in order to put up an exhibition. All of these can be done so as to slowly win the approval of your father in order to expand your business and thus gain more profits. Very good. See, that's wonderful work from all of you guys. Now, do you see how a discussion is happening here? Everybody brings in their own points, their own inputs, their own perspectives. And together we're able to pull in our ideas such that we have a plan in place. How are you going to go about this? That is exactly the idea of a group discussion. Now, let's consider this next case. You are a team of 5 who have been working at a prominent edtech company for over 5 years. Some of you climbed the professional ladder at this company from scratch, first arriving as a student volunteer teacher, moving on to intern with the R&D vertical of the company, where you generated educational content after extensive research, then taking up a formal research position upon graduation, and finally entering the position of a junior manager for the R&D team. In recent months, you have noticed that the company has been spending 5 times the amount of money on marketing and sales rather than it is on R&D. In a context where circumstances of education during the pandemic are changing and there is a general need for fast-track innovation and educational strategies, discuss the next course of action with your teammates regarding striking a balance between R&D and marketing or sales. This is your question. In the case of an edtech company, is R&D as important as marketing and sales? That is the question. So that is the concern here. So you want to argue that, yes, we should put in some money into R&D as well, because edtech implies that education is being provided through the medium of technology. So you cannot be technologically backward if you are an edtech company. So you need to convince your team in order to put in more resources into edtech or to balance the expenditure that is used for R&D and marketing. How would you do that? Give me 1 or 2 arguments, 1 or 2 points by which you can say R&D is just as important. Remember, you have a lot of experience. You started as a student volunteer teacher. You went into the R&D vertical. Now you've taken up a formal research position upon graduation. Finally, you are entering the position of a junior manager for the R&D team. So you have a lot of experience. You know how things work. Use all of that experience to argue any 2 arguments. Give me 2 points. Anybody? Any 2 points?
Ma'am, I want to give 2 points on R&D.
Yes, go on.
Ma'am, every company is a very important for R&D because for deep innovation in a long-term growth for any company and on
And go on. Is that all? Shivam? Is that all?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for deep innovation and sustained long-term growth, R&D cannot be compromised. Without R&D, exactly what are you marketing? You can become dated very soon because technology is ever growing. When you are using technological products, you cannot omit R&D. We can give examples of other edtech companies. Yes. Also, when you are interacting with students, the more technological resources you have in order to demonstrate your concepts, for instance, the more impactful your teaching will be. So at the end of the day, if teaching is what you're trying to market, then you cannot say no to R&D. We have to invest in R&D. We have to invest in R&D to make our content more interactive so that more students can interactively learn. Yes, very good. That is exactly what I mean. Very good. So now you are getting the hang of it. You look at a topic, you identify the problem, and then you bring in your suggestions. Very good. That is the end of our presentation. Is there anything that you want me to revisit, go back to? Anything else that you want to address or ask? Please feel free to raise your questions. Is there anybody here who is actually really scared of speaking? For all of these activities, you need to be confident enough to speak. We all make mistakes while speaking. We all do. That is okay. Is there anybody who actively has trouble speaking? Ananya, go on.
No, I was just agreeing with the thing you said.
You have trouble speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
What trouble exactly do you face when you speak?
And mostly, um, translating it in English, and my vocabulary is not too good. That's why.
Don't think of it in those terms. So, the thing that you can do if you have those kind of worries is to read more. Reading actually helps a lot, and you do not have to read like dense material. You can read small storybooks sort of things. Reading
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
helps a great deal in terms of conversation. We don't realize this while we are reading, but later on when we need to talk, this actually shows its effects. We should run a trial week where 1 week all the efforts are put in R&D and then next week on sales, then weigh in their contributions to see the final split of money. That is not a bad suggestion, but see, what is our intention here? Our intention here is to find the balance between spending, right? Our intention here is not to focus entirely on R&D or on sales for any duration of time. So we're not saying R&D should be prioritized over sales. We're only saying R&D should be as much of a priority as sales are, right? That's what we're trying to convey here. Reading can be very helpful in that regard. Talking to yourself can be very helpful in that regard. Sometimes you're extremely anxious. So if you are anxious, you can control the pace of your speech. Speak a little more slowly. That can be very helpful. Oftentimes in group discussions, we make a suggestion. Let's say that suggestion is not well received, and then we immediately get deflated. We lose confidence to make any further suggestions. That should not be the case. You should be able to move on, think in the moment, be in the moment, and think in the moment. Think on your feet. I think thought I thought that the competition can improve their work spirit. Uh, we do not have to pick one vertical of the company against another, right? So the idea is here that we're trying to achieve organizational goals. So let's not try to split our company into different verticals and encourage competition between them, right? But yes, that was a good suggestion, nevertheless. In order to address that question about the recordings, once your workshop sessions are over, the recordings will be uploaded to YouTube and the links will be made available in your course calendar. You might have to wait a little bit because this is actually the last session of our workshops. Once the sessions end, they will be uploaded. Before they end, they cannot be uploaded. Okay? So this might happen in a little bit. We can expand our operations as when our content is interactive, more and more students will join us. As an example, I can state an edtech company started as a YouTube channel and now it has expanded in many more horizons. Yes, Aishman, it's a very good strategy. Krishna, you have a question, please go on.
Do you have any platform or the way to practice to get the real experience of group discussion?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think for students who have a lot of difficulty conversing in English, there is something called a conversational practice. A conversational practice that is conducted by the instructors of English 1 and English 2. I think that is provided to you as an activity, but this is specifically for students who absolutely have no background in English, so they have a lot of trouble communicating in English. For those students, there is that option. Conversational practice sessions are offered by English 1 and English 2 tutors.
Because if you could, before going to interviews or sorts, before we get some real hands-on experience in group discussion, so it would be
It would be
really
very
game
helpful.
changer. Yeah.
So, the thing that I recommend, both in terms of interviews and in terms of group discussions, is that practicing with your friends can be very helpful. Getting together a bunch of friends and maybe intentionally putting in a debatable topic into the discussion floor so that you can learn to face and to address conflicts or differences of opinion can be very helpful. This is something that I usually suggest.
Okay, ma'am. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. If that's all, then we can end for the day. We've completed ahead of schedule. If there are any other questions, yes. Go on.
Ma'am, actually, sometimes I face problem speaking like when a topic is given, but I am prepared. But when I
You're
start
prepared.
speaking,
Hmm.
yes, I am prepared. But when I try to deliver my points, I start forgetting the points.
Is that
Like it
because
one
you're
time,
trying to rely too much on a script, Anandita? I feel like that might be the problem here. You are prepared in that you have prepared a script and you've by hearted the script, I think.
Acha, yes.
Is that the case? Then yes. Yes,
Because I
Mahalakshmi, I
have
see your
written
hand.
na whole point I have written.
Yes, you have written the whole point, but you're also supposed to know the whole point. Yeah? So I understand this. This happens to all of us, right? When we by heart a script, when we by heart a script, and when we are going in front of a stage, in front of an audience to deliver the script, we do forget significant parts of it, right? So the remedy here is to not just by heart. The remedy here is to understand what it is that you're going to be saying. Preparation not just in terms of scripting and by hearting, but preparation in terms of understanding what it is that you want to tell the audience, right? You can use a script as a quick reminder, quickly jotted down points. From one point, you move on to another point. From there, you move on to the next point. You can use that as a quick reminder. But at the end of the day, if you're relying too much on a script, this can happen. Over reliance on a script can cause this issue. So, the idea here is to understand. The idea here is to be aware of what are the points that you want to raise in this discussion and to go systematically from one point to the other with the help of a script. Does that help?
Okay, ma'am. I'll come.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Mahalakshmi, go on.
Yes, ma'am. So I have two questions. The first question is that in a group discussion, it is seen more than as a competition. It's all about taking others'
Collaboration.
points, yeah, and their
Yes.
perspectives. So, like, what I did in this meet, like, all about telling all about my experiences and uh, like whenever I'm talking with the judge, can I tell this about like how I asked you to check, like as a check, like shall we tell the judge to check whether our point is correct or not?
No, because the judge is not involved in the group discussion, Mahalakshmi. In the group discussion, there are only the participants and the leader. That's it. And the leader is also actually just a participant. So you can't ask the judge to check the point. Not in that context. No. Here it is fine. Here it's just me, right? So that's fine. But in a group discussion, that might not be possible.
So we can't even tell the leaders to check, right?
No, you can't. You have to be confident about what you're putting forth.
Okay, ma'am. So my other question is that whenever I come to a group discussion, so I'll be seeing people who are much more senior than me, much more older than me. So they will be having a lots and lots of information than what I do have. So for me, for a person like me who have just completed class 12, it will be something beyond their domain of knowledge. But whenever I'm trying to acquire knowledge to their level, I find it so difficult. In even if I refer to materials for more than 2 to 3 times, so in such a case, what can I do?
The first point here is to not be intimidated. They might be senior to you, they might be more knowledgeable, but that doesn't mean you have to be intimidated. You can bring in your own inputs into the discussion, okay? And you do that confidently. About knowledge acquisition, that's not something that you can do in a day or a day or two. It's a lifelong process. So one day you'll most certainly get there. Rest assured. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Krishna, you have a question, something.
A few weeks back, I was participating in a debate and I got 90 seconds and I had 3 points to put forward. But
3 points in 90 seconds.
yeah.
You're a bit ambitious, Krishna. Okay, go on.
So, I mean, yeah, so that's the point that I could only, put forward only 1 point.
Yeah,
So,
you could only. I would guess that. Yes. So the point
so I
here
was
is that you
wondering
should
if the
not be.
problem was the problem was from my side, whether I'm too slow or what. So that is the
See,
question.
it's not about slow, right? Your communication has to be clear enough. You have to make your point unambiguously. That is very important in all of these communication activities. So 3 points in 90 seconds is a stretch. You can't do that. You are only human. So you have to understand that you have to be very concise and very limited, very pointed in terms of what it is that you want to say. One or two, not more than that. Right?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Right, Aishman, the problem with stuttering. Stuttering, it's something that I face myself, so I can actually help you here. If you have the problem of stuttering, talk to yourself a lot. Talk to yourself in English a lot. Randomly walking, it doesn't have to be very loud because in that case, people tend to think that there's something wrong with you. So you can talk to yourself rather quietly a lot. And when you talk, control the pace of your speech. Talk slowly. Intentionally control the pace of your speech. Put stress on specific words. Take thought pauses. Thought pauses are when you, after a phrase, within a sentence, after a phrase, you pause for a second such that you collect your thoughts and then you resume the sentence. Not very long pauses, but a short pause so that you can collect your thoughts and then re articulate. Or not re-articulate, articulate in a better way. That can actually help with stuttering. Yeah, you can't always rehearse in all conversations. If there is the possibility of rehearsal, that can help. Yes. Is that all? Right. I hope this was helpful to all of you. I hope that all of these pointers will stay with you and that someday you will all excel in group discussions as and when your career demands it. That is all for today's session. Thank you for joining me in these sessions. Wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.